Hi, so before I continue with the subject matter of this video, just a few things to say, sort of disclaimers, clarifications, and so on. You'll notice I haven't kind of been active for the last 5 days. I've had some technical problems. I've had to reboot my system um, for a range of reasons, and it meant that I lost my password for this account, so I had to move back and forth on that. And you know how it is when rather, it didn't lose my password, it just wouldn't accept my password. You know, when you get that message, have you lost your password? No, I haven't. It just won't be accepted. It'd be very, very frustrating. So I had to do a lot of back and forth on that. But as it stands, I've got the account back. Hopefully, it will stay that way. Um, I'm going to do a big review of this channel at some point. I'll try to get back to comments as best as possible, but please accept my apologies if I can't get back to each and every individual comment. Um, when I review the videos for monetizing, something that's come to my notice, and I mentioned this recently, was they have a section regarding advertising. Does your video contain hateful content? I don't like the way they phrase that because then they kind of have these options. Um, for example, content that is used in a humorous way, but may content that may offend minorities but is used in a humorous way. Content that may offend minorities but is used for a documentary or news item. And actually, in the first part, the first option they say, or for public debate. Well, public debate and documentary and news item can be kind of overlapping. Yeah, one can be monetized and one has limited monetization. The third one is straightforward, like content that is hateful, obviously. Um, but I'm not. I don't like the way they've done this. It's very vague and loosely defined because I mean a lot of my videos could be provocative. So as an example, the last one I made was about my feelings about the Chinese government's influence on overseas Chinese students. Now, if you're a Chinese student, you might take that a certain way. That doesn't mean that I'm being hateful to all, excuse me, to all Chinese students or all Chinese nationals. And I'm always very, very careful about that. So I don't like the way YouTube defines these things. I think there has to be a flexibility for people to discuss serious topics and serious contentions without these ridiculous, oversimplistic definitions like hateful content. What does that mean? To me, hateful content is if you are stoking up hatred against a particular group of people. So, for example, if I was saying, "Oh, all Chinese students are this, they're our enemy," let's be against them. But very clearly, that's not what I'm saying. And it does bug me a little bit because it concerns me that then people, well, it's not so much that viewers would misunderstand me, um, but I don't want to have the situation whereby I either lose out from monetizing or I constantly have to self censor, which I'm just not going to do. And I've always taken the view if people misunderstand why I'm saying, if they misinterpret my position, that's not my problem. Because when it comes to issues around race or sensitive geopolitical issues, I'm always candid, but I'm also cautious. No, not cautious. I'm candid but responsible. Okay, I never ever vilify an entire group ever. I can honestly say that. I'm never sexist, racist, or homophobic in any reasonable sense of the word. So I can be politically incorrect. I can confront, um, sort of woke conventions and so on, but it does concern me a little bit. So I just want to mention those things as a point of general observation. Anyway, thanks for listening, and now to the main point of this video. Um, I watched The Wolf of Wall Street the other day. Great film. I don't intend this to be a full-on review of that. Um, But Leonardo DiCaprio, best actor in the world in my opinion. He's my favorite actor, so I'm biased. Um, it's certainly an engaging and memorable film. Very excessive, very debaucherous. If you haven't seen it, it did at that point have the record for the most swear words. It is pretty, extreme, excessive drug use, excessive sex, some violence. It's just excessive in every sense of the word. And it's kind of symbolic of the money hungry 80s. And the subject matter, of course, is about a financier, for want of a better word. I'm not sure if he would be classed as a trader or not, but Jordan Belfort. Um, and it's based on his own autobiography. Um, he's more or less endorsed the film. Stars Leonardo DiCaprio in the title role. It shows pretty much the seedy, rough and tumble world of the financial markets. Jordan Belfort, of course, if you know anything about him, he was working from boiler room economics, that is outside the main system. These illegal call centers sort of manipulating or misleading shareholders. But I don't want to embarrass myself by getting into financial terms that I know little about. Nevertheless, it's very much been on my mind the last few days. If there's any criticism to be made of Wolf of Wall Street as a film, it was very entertaining, um, but it is a little bit. I mean, it has basically no focus whatsoever on the victims of Jordan Belfort. It's all about his antics and his life and how he came about doing these things. And it's entertaining, but that kind of concerns me that it's almost too entertaining. It almost glamorizes that lifestyle. Um, that's been one of the critiques of this film. I mean, done commercially well, but I do understand that because Piers Morgan actually asked the man himself, who makes a cameo at the end of the film, isn't this kind of just, making perhaps young people look at you the way you and other, young guys in the 80s would have looked at the character of Gordon Gekko, just great, 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 great is good. And I do think that there is a risk of a film like that kind of glamorizing what Jordan Belfort done. I mean, he hurt a lot of people. Um, so I do think the film was a little bit on the glamorizing side of things. Um, and I'm not saying that as a Puritan. I think it was a very entertaining film. There's no doubt about it. But even at the end, there isn't much sort of, even in prison, it says money can buy you anything, and he has this kind of, we assume, uh, special segment of the prison because he's playing tennis and stuff. So sort of like, I think it can anger a lot of people. Sort of thinking, I mean, this guy's a complete shit. Where's his comeuppance? Um, so I don't know. Um, but thinking of the subject of wealth, there was a report in the Times yesterday. The main thing was on the Russian dossier, but it had a report at the bottom. I'll just show you actually. This is from the London Times, July the 22nd. Report at the bottom there from Tom Knowles, technology correspondent. That's rich. Amazon founders' wealth up by 13 billion in a day. The world's richest man, Jeff Bezos, due to Amazon shares that he has, due to the fact that Amazon has done well during the coronavirus crisis. His net worth has risen by 74 billion this year, 13 billion in one day, and now is thought to be around 189.3 billion US dollars, which the report states, Tom Knowles states, meaning that his net worth exceeds that of Qatar, which is a nominal GDP of $183 billion. Qatar is the world's richest country. So we are talking here about staggering wealth. Jeff Bezos is the richest man in modern history, far succeeding Bill Gates, or Helios Slim, or any of the other super rich. I mean, that's just staggering because I thought I kind of assumed that today's multi-billionaires wouldn't be as wealthy as the multi-billionaires, for example, of the Gilded Age in pro rata terms. But they are. I mean, the richest man of modern times up until now was widely considered to be um, Rockefeller, I believe, whose net worth was estimated to be around 300 billion. So, okay, that's more, but he died at the age of 98 or 100 or something like that. Bezos is still only in his 50s. Um, Mark Zuckerberg, creator of Facebook, added nearly 15 billion to his net worth to 93 billion this year. Um, these are astronomical sums. Bezos has all the trappings of a multi-billionaire. You might expect lots of very fancy homes, massive real estate. He, of course, was the founder of Amazon. I don't want to get into an overly philosophical video here or moralistic video, but there is something fundamentally not right about that. That one man can make 13 billion in a day. A day. Um, with philanthropy, he's not as prominent in that area as someone like Bill Gates. I know he gives a portion to Seattle homeless charity, but his big focus is on space exploration. It's a project that he has, Blue Horizons. Now, it's his money; he can do what he wants with it. But I'm not so sure that space exploration is the main thing that we should focus on when there's so many problems still on Earth. Another thing I cannot help feeling about Jeff Bezos is this is the man, the CEO of Amazon. Now, Amazon has come under a lot of scrutiny in recent years, particularly in the UK, over the what has been described as Dickensian treatment of its labour force in factories around the UK. In one incident, a pregnant woman was thought to have been made to give birth on the factory facility. Things like this coming out of Amazon are repugnant. I do not think that Bezos has personally addressed this as much as he should for a company that is in his name. Um, whether there's been sufficient internal investigations or not, I don't think he has personally really addressed this. Put it this way, if I was a multi-billionaire and I was the CEO of a company that came under serious labour rights abuses, I would be vocally wanting to confront this and say, I will do everything in my power to stamp this out. I'm not convinced that Bezos has. So, from a moral point of view, and again, I don't want to make this excessively moralistic, but makes you wonder, the world we live in. And this is a side of capitalism that raises questions how one individual could be so filthy rich that apparently Jeff Bezos spending $88,000 would be the equivalent of the average American spending $1. So it's just staggering. Um, I'm not a socialist, and I think I would be a hypocrite to take socialist positions because I like to be well off. I think a lot of people would like to be wealthy. Maybe this could come into the video about Wolf of Wall Street, but you know what? Maybe I'll just amalgamate them all into this one. So I don't want to be a hypocrite. Of course, I'd like to be wealthy. I don't think I'd like to be a billionaire, at least not at my age. If I was ever going to be a billionaire, I think it would be better to be gradual. Um, I mean, all I can say about Mark Zuckerberg is he must have a very, very stable lifestyle because to be a billionaire, along with others like Dustin Moskovich, at the age he did, is just incredible. A lot of people would actually just implode. I understand, for example, some lottery services actually offer to pay lottery winnings in installments rather than a lump sum because a lot of people they can't handle it. If you're on the minimum wage or you're on some regular job and you suddenly get 5 million, 10 million, it's like going into the deep end. Um, so I think ethically, lottery providers probably should provide some sort of financial advisors or something to major winners, and maybe they already do. Um, but honestly, I mean, I have a pretty good idea of the sort of things I would like to do if I had a lot of money. But that's easier said than done. I could say I'll give to X, Y, and Z charity. I'll pay off my student loans. I'll get this house. I'll pay my parents, etc. But the reality is, it's unlikely to ever happen. So I just don't know. Um, but this thing about massive, massive wealth, should there be a limit on how much an individual can make? I don't know. I think it would be difficult to enforce something like that. But a more left wing side of me would raise this question. Conservatives always talk about they'll disparage welfare because they say it doesn't give an incentive to work. They'll say if the government just gives people money, there's no incentive there. But they don't seem to have the same argument when it comes to major multinational companies, finding offshore tax havens and then saying, oh, well, if we don't give them tax breaks, then they'll invest elsewhere. Well, where's their incentive? It's almost like this idea. I have actually seen conservatives in the UK argue if we tax the super rich, then they'll just go and find offshore tax havens or they'll invest elsewhere. So we better give them what they want. That way of thinking, I have no time for. Um, and I think one can say that without being a red flag carrying socialist. It's just about fairness. And I do have a problem with conservatives who are more vocal in condemning the unemployed than they are, multi-billionaires. Um, but there's no question about it. The reason why something like Wolf of Wall Street is so compelling is because most people, if they're totally honest, they probably wouldn't want that lifestyle. I mean, I can't imagine what's like being that sort of hectic, constantly trading and, breaking the law in his case, doing hard drugs, wild sex. I think at some point you'd burn out. I really do. But most people would certainly like a financial security where they never have to worry about money. Of course they would. So I don't think you can honestly be a socialist and have aspirations because I think aspirations come. That's why I never say I'm anti-capitalism, because if you have any aspirations, then at some point capitalism is going to come into that. I think it's unavoidable. Um, that doesn't mean though that capitalism should be above scrutiny. I watched a Deutsche Welle video. Deutsche Welle, I think I'm pronouncing that right. They were discussing, analysing the coronavirus recession. And one of the things they pointed out, or one of the economists in that pointed out, is it may be that the world's entire economic system may need to have a serious rethink because this is different from the Great Recession. It's something that's more complex. And it could really, really have very deep, lasting implications. There's different kinds of recessions, of course, a V recession, a W recession, an L recession, and the worst being an I recession. I'm trying to inform myself about these things. Honestly, I feel I've got a very, very basic knowledge. I actually bought this on eBay recently. The Oxford University's very short introduction series. I thought I'd get the economics one because my knowledge of economics, frankly, is lax. Um, why I rarely talk about it. So I hope to inform myself a bit more when I get a chance to read that. But let me know your thoughts. Usually these super, super rich people, they will be quite big philanthropists. I mean, Bill Gates has given away more money than any other person in history. Elon Musk has, Mark Zuckerberg has, Jeff Bezos has, albeit in different ways. Nevertheless, there is a fundamental thing there, that someone is working flat out and they can only ever afford to get by. Then the argument about, oh, hard work will get you whatever you want, I think is flawed. I'm not disparaging hard work, by the way. I'm just saying that that is not the reality for a lot of people in this world. There's people in developing countries work flat out in sweatshop labour, and they barely see the rewards of that. So I think it's disingenuous to say, oh, if everyone in the world worked hard, they'll just have a comfortable life. I don't think that's accurate. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. Wolf of Wall Street, excessive capitalism, greed, and Jeff Bezos' wealth. Let me know what you think.